Aloha from the Doris Duke Theater. I'm Surfer Joe Teipel. This is the 15th annual Honolulu Surf Film Festival. And, well, Kyle, I'm stoked. I've been here every year from the very beginning, and it just keeps getting better and better. Probably the longest running surf film festival in the world.
Bob Campi launched the world premiere of his biopic film, The Shape of Things, The Dick Brewer Story, at the 15th annual Honolulu Surf Film Festival before a crowd of Brewer's friends, colleagues, and admirers. Campi told this story through an interview format using a cast that included Laird Hamilton, Lenny, Garrett McNamara, Darrick Doerner, Jock Sutherland, Jericho Poppler, Sarlo, Steve Morgan, Jack Reeves, Trent Moore, and others. An original soundtrack performed by members of the surf community enhanced the quality of the film. I'd like to thank Director and CEO Helona Norton Westbrook at the Honolulu Museum of Art and Sarah Fang in the Doris Duke Theater for the many years of support the museum has provided to the surf community through its annual Honolulu Surf Film Festival. This thanks also includes the local sponsors who contribute to the success of the festival. One of my favorite moments at the Honolulu Surf Film Festival years ago was the interaction between Australia's Bob McTavish and Dick Brewer, as both extremely confident men lay claim to the birth of the shortboard. This video introduces a new contender for that title. Please enjoy this post-film discussion that followed the opening night screening.
Most of you are OGs, but before I go any farther, I just want to say thank you. So I want to say thank you to most of the people that were in this movie. Of course, I want to say thank you to Alan and Deborah Sarlo. I want to say thank you to Bob Campi. I want to say thank you to Chuck Brewer. And of course, Jim Kempton, also Randy Rarick. And I could just go on. And I want to say thank you to Hale, yeah, wherever he is. Also Buzzy Kerbox, Pat Rawson, Alan Sarlo. But most of all, and I can't forget one name who was really instrumental. She gave me a leg this evening, who worked directly with Bob Campi. Thank you very much for that. And also Charlene Fu for putting so much communication together. But formally, I just want to say thank you to Charlotte and Sherry Brewer. Sherry was the love of Dick Brewer's life. He called her as many times as he could find his phone. And if he couldn't find his phone, he'd be looking for his phone, and he picked that phone up, and he loved you so much. And I want to say thank you for everybody coming here. And I want to introduce to you a man who's surfed around the world more than anybody in the world, Randy Rarick.
All right, thanks, Greg. So, this is a really special night because it's the first premiere of the Dick Brewer Story, and I think we've got a great panel here. We're going to run through it fairly quickly, but I want to start off with the producer of the film, Bob Campi, and Bob, give us a quick recap of what we got here.
What
can I say, I couldn't do it with all these people sitting here and just brought this story to life. And I was so proud to be just in the circle of Dick's friends and really understanding the history that came across at the time. And it was just a privilege to tell this story. And I hope you enjoyed the film as much as I did. I talked to people that were, you know, chairman of the USA for the Arts, and really never understand the dynamics of surfboard shaping and the fact that it is very much an artistic endeavor. And they are pieces of art. And especially in Dick's case, a lot of them were wall hangers, as well as some of the best surfers in the world riding them. So it was just a tremendous opportunity for me, and over the 3 years that it took me, 3.5 now, to put it together, I think it really kind of encapsulates the story. And I thank everybody here. It was fantastic. Just everyone that wanted, I had no trouble getting interviews. Everyone was right and ready just to step right up and really share stories of Dick and how innovative he was over 6 decades. And of course, Sherry Brewer, couldn't have done it without her. Yeah. And wonderful life. Do we have any questions?
Not yet. Wait, hang on a second, Bob. We've got a good panel here, and we don't want to keep it too long, but I want to start off with ladies first. I want to go to Jericho. And as you saw, and it was great with that little test at the beginning, that Jericho designed the first Dick Brewer logo. A lot of you saw in the film, you know, Dick started off with, actually before Surfboards Hawaii, with Shoal Surfboards. Then he came here to Hawaii, opened Surfboards Hawaii, went to Hobie, went to Harbor, had a long stint with Big Surfboards, went with Greek Surfboards, and then decided I'm going to come under my own label. And Jericho, give us a quick little, you know, recap of how you came up to design that logo.
Okay, greetings everybody, and I'm really happy to be here because I get to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a long time, and my bros up here, God, I'm the token chick. I love it, Sherry. Anyway, I first met Dick in 1964, so that would have been, what, how many decades ago? And I was riding for Harbor Surfboards, you know, just this little gidget lady, girl, whatever. And I mean, I knew instantaneously that he was this guy that was kind of doing gigs for Hobie and being in the South Bay and other shapers, companies. The companies were developing. And you just knew that he was the magic man, just the magic shaper. And he, Pied Piper, you know, in California. And then it was years later, like 1968, when I met him in the coffee shop at Huntington Beach. He was shaping for Plastic Fantastic. You know, Plastic in Huntington, all the guys in the fall, even from Hawaii, they'd be over in Huntington because the U.S. champs and the waves were good in California. And so all the shapers were there, all the surfers were there, and there's Dick Brewer. I mean, just like, And that's when I really ran into him again. And then I was doing art and dance and theater. That's my background besides surfing. And he approached me and said, I want you to do me a sticker or a label or what, a brand, a logo, whatever. And I went, well, gosh, of course I will. And I said he was going to Hawaii and he was gonna just go to Hawaii and do his surfing and surfboards and everything. And I said, well, you gotta have the lathe. You gotta have the lathe, Dick. And so I drew it on a napkin. And he said, he just kind of approved. And so that was it.
And the rest is history. Thanks, Jericho. Our sort of elder statesman on the panel here at the far end, Jock Sutherland. Jock was one of the brewers. In the film, you saw the lineup. I don't know if you saw that black and white lineup, and it was the very first. What Dick did, he says, I'm going to have a contest at Haleiwa, but you had to ride a Surfboards Hawaii. So in that lineup, there's Clyde Cow, there's Jock Sutherland, there's Jeff Hackman, there's Johnny Clark, there's Fred Hemmings. I mean, the cream of the crop. And so, Jock, why don't you give us a little insight in that early days when you first got to know Brewer?
Well, those were heady days because the first boards that a lot of us rode were real clunkers, whatever we could, scrape together money from mowing lawns or delivering papers or whatever. And my first board was a balsa pipe board, actually my second board. But then the board after that was an old Velzy, or maybe when I was 16, in that shot you're talking about, the black and white shot, the Hollywood contest, I think Butch won and Kiki Spangler might have been second. And I think Jimmy Lucas and Jeff and I were some of the junior men, and maybe Frank Keown too, a couple of good servers. It wasn't easy to get, although there was less contestants, but our boards were not streamlined, but because they were Brewers, they were a lot easier to ride than the first big, longboards, which is why my personal feeling is that a lot of the guys like Greg Noah and Bing and Mickey Munoz and guys that were first riding Wyman, because the boards they were riding were basically just big round rail, 35 pound long boards with a little bit of streamline in there. And so for them to ride Waimea competently at all is a tribute to not only their ability, but just their enthusiasm. Strange wave, and they'd be paddling out into the middle of nowhere.
So you recognize the design that Brewer had early on then?
Yeah, pretty much from after we had seen people like Butch and Jeff, ride those early, fairly customized boards, and we were like, wow, look at this, this is great. And so we copied them, like we like to copy Phil Edwards a little bit, but more Joey Cabell. And for Jeff and I, and probably you too, it was Paul Stroud.
Yeah, so design was what Brewer did, and that's what projected Surfboards Hawaii. I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit while we're talking design. I want to go to Pat Rawson, skip ahead about 4 generations. And Pat, you started shaping back in the 70s, worked your way from a glasser into a shaper, worked with Brewer, worked with everybody else, and to this day are still crafting, beautiful surfboards. But why don't you give us a little early influence that you had with Brewer, when you still first started shaping with him?
Well, when I moved to Hawaii, they didn't need another California shaper. It was a small place. The Japanese industry really hadn't started yet. So I worked as a pinline and gloss, and people liked my work. And Dick, I've always looked up to him and stuff. I saw that he was clearly a lot better than most of the guys that shaped surfboards and stuff. So I was fortunate. I asked a lot of good questions, and I think he liked that. And so I did learn quite a bit of things from RB, mostly in larger wave boards, which is what I'm known for. And I can't tell you how much he's helped my career. I've been at it a long time. I started in '66, and by the time I got to Hawaii in the early '70s, that was the pinnacle. And then having somebody like Dick kind of guide me through it was really important. So I thank him for that.
All right, so as you saw through the film, Dick influenced an incredible amount of shapers. I mean, there were so many proteges under Dick's tutelage, and Steve Morgan is here tonight. I'd like to acknowledge Steve wherever we are. And, he worked with all kinds of people, and to put this story together, it took looking at his whole history, and I want to ask Jim Kempton here. Jim's former editor of Surfer Magazine, and he wrote the script for the show. And Jim, you talk to shapers, you talk to everybody. You've been around running, Surfer Magazine for 10 years. How was it scripting this, for the movie?
It actually wasn't that difficult because just tonight, someone came up to me and they said, Dick Brewer is like here. And what's the next? There isn't anybody in that echelon. Like everyone else is down here. Like, name me another shaper. And when you do, you start naming 20 shapers. And the reality about it is that he did just about everything there was in terms of innovation that was practical and was effective in surfing. So the one wonderful thing about it is that he has a hero's arc. He got great fame and he fell from grace and he got redemption, and that's always a great story. And I think that comes through in the movie, that there's drama there. It isn't just a biopic fluff about him, but it's the real guy.
So you saw a lot of different people in the film tonight and a lot of really good surfers. We have the king of Malibu, the wave killer, Alan Sarlo, who has had an incredible career in Malibu. But when you see Alan out at Sunset Beach, he still rips unbelievably. So Alan, tell us, what influenced you to get involved with Brewer early on?
Well, my best friends, Darrick Doerner, Mark Fu, and Buzzy Kerbox were riding Brewers. And I spent a lot of time with Mark talking about surfing Sunset and Waimea. And Mark told me, he goes, look, Alan, if you want to surf Sunset good, you have to be on a Brewer. And I go, really, you think you could get me a shaping appointment? And he goes, sure. And so Mark introduced me to Dick Brewer, and Dick and Sherry and Darrick Doerner and Buzzy. We're all just, we've been good friends ever since.
We really saw Dick reinvent himself over and over and over again, and it's amazing because, as Jim just said, he's this far above all the other shakers around the world. And probably the last, chapter in his thing was when he developed the toe-in surfing with Laird and Darrick. And Darrick was supposed to sit up here, but Darrick decided to sit it out. Thank you very much, Darrick. But I want to have Buzzy, talk a little bit about toe thing, but I want to give a quick little story. I've known Buzzy since he was a little kid, moved to Kailua, and started working his way up through the ranks. Back in the 70s when we started the pro tour, Buzzy got on the tour and went through and became really one of Hawaii's best surfers in the late 70s, early 80s. And I think he went through a variety of shapers as he was coming up to this. And I remember we put together a group to go to South Africa and compete. And I think that was the first time, if I'm correct, Buzzy, when you got on the first Brewer.
Yeah, I think I'd ridden a couple Brewers before that, but you're putting together the tour to go to South Africa. So, there really wasn't a pro tour, but there was pro events at different places, and Randy was putting the tour together. So I need some boards. So I went to Dick's shop and met with him, and I go, I need like two boards. I need a 6'4" and a 6'8", and he's like, well, what kind of waves are you gonna ride? I go, well, from 2-foot waves in Japan and 8-foot waves at Jeffreys Bay, and I need these two boards that'll ride anything. So we kind of worked on outlines and stuff, and he'd hold up the blank, and we'd look at it, and make a few changes, and then he'd cut them out, and okay, come back in a week. And those two boards I took and rode everything that the tour threw at me.
And then, once again, fast forwarding 3 generations later from the toe thing, and the story was pretty well, Bob did a good job of telling the story here of how you, Laird, and Darrick, went to Dick and came up. What did you think when you first rode those toe boards that Dick designed?
Well, the first one was that 7'4" that was in the movie, and I think I tried it at Hokipa. We towed it a big day when nobody was out of Hokipa, and I was like, oh my God. It was just like, because up until then we've been towing on our regular giant guns, and they just weren't that, maneuverable. And we got on that little thing, and it was fast, it was narrow. All that concave scared me. I was like, I've never seen concave like that. How was it going to work? But it got on the waves, and it was unbelievable. And then, the 7.4 was the standard, and then next year we'd go down to 7.2, and then each year they kind of got shorter and shorter. Now the toe boards are like 6 feet or 5.10s, and Dick's, when Laird and Darrick first went there, that board that he came out with, that was everything. It's still kind of made off of that. That was the original one, and there's some changes, but pretty much what he came up with in that first one, and changed the big wave riding for us.
I think all of us, have a story, and we can tell one. I'll tell you a quick one. I met Dick Brewer when I was 12 years old. I went to the Surfboards Hawaii factory, which was an old house in Honolulu, right across where McDonald's is. It's torn down now. And I watched Dick shaping one bedroom was a shaping room, the living room was the glassing room, and the other bedroom was the sanding room, and that's where the Surfboards Hawaii started. So Dick and I got to know each other. Then he went, like I said, to Hovey, then he went to Harbor, and he had a pretty good stint with Bing when he designed the Pipeliner, which really changed longboard surfing and was the emphasis for the beginning of the shortboard era. But I used to foil all the fins for Brewer at Surfline Hawaii, which is where Dick shaped a lot of the boards. And quick little story, we had David Nui, he made a 10-foot Pipeliner for Nuiva. And Nuiva took it out to Rocky Point, and he broke 2 feet off the nose. I mean, it was a brand new board, and it came back in with this broken nose, 2 feet gone, and I was the repair guy at Surfline. So I looked at this thing and look at the rest of the board. 8 feet of this board is still perfect. So I took a trash can lid, drew a round circle on the nose, peeled the glass back, and rounded the nose out, and that became the Bing Lotus. David took it back out to Rocky Point about 3 days later, and they blew their mind. They said that was the beginning of the shortboard revolution. And it was just by a touch.
I'd like to add one thing. A great story when I was producing this was Dick, in probably like 1968, when he was in California, was trying to talk his friends into towing him in with their boats at like Redondo Beach breakwater on a water ski. So the fascinating thing to me was that probably 20, 30 years earlier, he was already thinking about it. He was already thinking that we could actually do this, and the rest is history, as we say. In '92, he figured it out. He always had the design in his mind. It was just guys like Buzzy and Darrick and Laird to kind of just bring it to the forefront. The rest is history.
I just wanted to mention, he was talking about the first time that he met Brewer, and when we had his memorial, and I don't know if it went too quickly on the movie because it was low and people were walking in front, but one of the things that was really astonishing was there were about 250 people that paddled out in the water, and every single one of them had a Brewer. I mean, I think that just kind of tells you everything about the guy.
We're going to wrap this up shortly, but anybody have a quick couple questions? We'll take a few from the audience out there. Just raise your hand, and if you got anything to say. Anybody got a question? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, did you do all the music on the track?
There was some original music. Yeah, I had 3 partners, Jeffrey Red and James Ganecco, and we were specific. I was really pleased. Bob is excellent at putting music in the right places, and the final song was one that I did. Dick had he had a great life, but there were some sad parts too, and I have to say it was really a pleasure doing the music and stuff. So we did have 4 songs in there, indeed.
Was there a flashpoint or a specific motivation that made you decide to make the movie?
Back in the mid-'70s, I was working in Lucadia. I was working for Sunset Surfboards with Eddie Wright. And I got involved there was Brewer-inspired shapers filtering in and out, creating this rail. And I'm an East Coast surfer. I had never seen anything like it. And the planing of the board and the flatness of the deck and the rail and the responsiveness, and even Eddie at Sunset was sort of, an eye-opening kind of thing, and there were shapers coming in and out, and I realized I brought a couple of those boards back east, and I was selling them in the parking lot, and it came to me back then, but years and years later, I wanted to, when the pandemic hit and my industry was completely flatlined, I basically said, I wonder what Dick Brewer's doing. It just came to me, and I started doing research.
Well, thank goodness.
It had to happen. It was a pandemic and actor strike and a couple of industry strikes, but we got it done.
Of course, I have to ask, Jericho, were you writing Brewers? And who were the girls that were writing Brewers back then? I can't even remember.
Wasn't it Becky?
Becky Benson.
Becky Benson, yeah. Yeah, well, because, Dick was so busy shaping for all these guys. It was like we were in the, we were in the corral. We were the cowgirls, we were in the back of the bus. No, I never had a Dick Brewer board. Never. Through all these decades. And actually, Dick said, well, what do you want for me designing his logo? And I said, well, I'm 16, and I said, $50 and a shaped blank. Okay, I never got $50 and a shaped blank. But Lyle, how many years ago, he heard that story and he presented me with a Dick Brewer. Very good.
All right. Well, I think.
What are your plans for the film?
Plans for the film are, we have an East Coast showing, and we're very pleased with that. And then we're in the throes of, we actually were selling brewers to kind of finance this, because as independent filmmakers, and most of the filmmakers here know you do.
It's an art.
It's an art. It's the trials and tribulations of trying to get through it financially, but we are doing it. And we plan on a Maui, and then with Bonnie in Fort Lauderdale, which we're very excited about, and hopefully a few more festivals. And then we're going to try to place it in probably one of the streaming outlets.
Sundance.
From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah, it's you might have noticed, there's one more showing here at the Surf Film Festival on the 20th. It's an afternoon matinee show, so if you want to tell your friends, come back or see it again. And on that note, I really want to thank Sarah Fang and the Honolulu Surf Film Festival for making it. Thank you, Sarah. Really. Mahalo, Sherry and the rest of the crew, and aloha.
And again, a big thanks to everybody here.
Tonight, we saw the story about the legendary Dick Brewer, The Shape of Things, and what a masterpiece. Congratulations to everybody involved. I'll see you at the next movie. Aloha.